Hey George, we are back.
What is happening?
We're back with another review. What are we reviewing today?
Today we're doing The Lucent by Michael Bancroft.
By Michael Bancroft. How we usually do these reviews. This is kind of your show, so
Yeah, no, it's our show, and we have three categories. We have the story, which encompasses obviously the plot and the dialogue. It also includes the lettering and the editing. We have the art, which is pencils, inks, colors, and
hmm
then we have the book quality itself, so the physical quality of the book itself.
okay. Now I did not get the book yet,
Hmm.
so I'll just take your grade for physical quality this
Okay,
time. All right. So what are we going to do first today, George?
we're going to start with the story and kind of give a brief synopsis on what the Lucent is about as best we can.
hmm
So, the Lucent, it's been kind of a little bit of a running joke. What's the Lucent about? What's the
Right.
Lucent about? I get the sense that it's a story following this main character here, Ella Forsyth. Although she's not the main character in the book throughout, she appears in it quite a bit. There's several scenes where she is not in it, but it seems though she is learning her powers through a sort of dream realm, and the dream is becoming a reality in portions of the story. Very reminiscent to the Matrix movies, if you ask me.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree.
And the story starts off though thousands of years prior, before any of the main characters are involved, and really nothing happens with those characters in the beginning again, at least not that I could tell. I could be wrong.
Yeah, it's hard to find. There's no tie-in that I
Right.
can tell.
And the story does jump around a bit, so it goes from that thousands of years in the past to more modern times,
And
and
then
then it
goes back again. Yep.
yeah, and then it jumps from the dreamscape to reality, or whatever which it is. It's a little bit hard to follow. Do you agree?
Um, I don't know about hard to follow, but like being no tie-ins is very frustrating.
Hmm.
That you start in, I don't know what the time would be, but I mean it's in the Middle East, I would say.
Hmm.
You have two characters, well, three characters. One is makes a very brief appearance, and they're not tied in.
Hmm.
And to when you jump from that timeline to the current timeline, there's no tie-in, and that's frustrating.
Hmm.
So, but then the second time you have tie jump, I'm sorry, there is a tie-in because she's lucid. I'm gonna call it lucid dreaming again or
Hmm.
whatever. So there is kind of a tie-in. It, it's confusing, George. Yes.
It is. I did like the idea of the story, and I did like the characters. At least the main one. I liked Ellis Forsyth quite a bit.
Yeah. I think that Michael did a good job developing Ella, but then I get to the frustration of the entire book, in my opinion, should have been all Ella. Like I get frustrated a little bit because the moments that I did enjoy the book were all based on Ella, and like you said at the beginning, we'll go. There's times that Ella's not involved in
Hmm.
in in the book. So
There was things I really did not like about the story. I know there's times when you have to tell an elongated story, but you can tell a chapter of it and have a satisfying ending and still build this world that's going to go on. But in this case, with this story, when this book ended, I felt the ending was rather flat because it was so unsatisfying. I almost feel like he ended it just based on the page number, not because that's where he wanted to end that portion of the story.
yeah, we're going to get into spoiler territory. I felt like there was a lot of unanswered questions. Maybe that's not even, but I feel like he did all these interviews at the end of the book with the characters, and I felt like that was kind of a making up for lack of story in the main book. I don't think I don't think it worked.
Hmm.
I didn't particularly care for the interviews. I wanted more story, not interviews. Does that make sense, George?
It makes a lot of sense. Do you feel as though, however, if you include the extra 12-page preview book, that kind of made up for where the main book ended?
No, I would say that I thought the 12-page book was just an action sequence. You know what I mean? That's
Mhm.
what that's what it was to me. It doesn't alleviate any of the questions I have, any of the frustrations I have. So I would say no.
Okay. There was one other thing I liked about the book beyond just Ella Forsyth. One of the things I've seen in a lot of these Comicsgate books is there's no real semblance of a main antagonist. There's like evil societies, there's evil races of villains, but when is there one main villainous character? I like that he's showing this Lamar Shaw character as the main villain. He's establishing that early. And
Hmm.
every good story needs a good villain. And he looks like he's developing a good villain in this story.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Although, again, just he's done such a good job with Ella that even he I think he's not developing, he's setting up. I think
Hmm.
it's a better way to explain it, George, because there's not a lot of development there, but there is setting up. I would agree to that. Yes.
Okay. So overall, how did you grade the story?
I thought it was lacking in a lot of parts, but the thing is you cannot overstate uh, the way he developed Ella and how attached you feel to her reading it. So that
Hmm.
carries a lot of weight in this grade.
Hmm.
There's a lot of downfalls which we went over, but I would probably give the story a B minus.
I gave it a C. And I gave it a C mostly because the ending was so unsatisfying. Whether you include the 12-page preview book or not, with all of the jumping around through time, through the reality and the dreamscape or what have you, it was just average. I gave it a C.
Mm. I would like to say too, and this is to get off this book, and we'll talk about crowdfunding and Comicsgate in general
Hmm.
on these books right here. It is really hard as a fan to sit back and get a book like this and know the next time you're going to get it, George, is in a year, because there not being any kind of satisfying resolution or closing to this book, and now you know the next one you're not getting it is for a year.
I've been saying that for quite some time. I think if you're going to have an ongoing story, you need to kind of come up with a better way of getting them out quicker. That's why I do appreciate the books that have a ending, even though their story could be ongoing.
So, and what's the next thing we grade?
The next thing will be the art. Now, we say pencils, inks, colors, all of that go in there.
Hmm.
So we've seen quite a bit of the digital art for quite some time in this book. A lot of times when I see it physically, it looks so different than it does digitally. In this instance, I thought it really kind of stayed the same. Like what you saw on screen is rather what you saw in person in the book when it was printed.
Interesting. I wonder if that's it's because he doesn't render a lot, George. I wonder if that's why.
I don't know, but you know the phenomenon I'm talking about, where you see it and you're like, ah, that looks okay, but then when you have it in hand, you're like, whoa, this looks really nice
Well,
in
there
person.
was a cover from another campaign we reviewed recently where we got the cover and it was like, whoa,
Yep.
right?
So what was nice about the book, what I liked about the book, one of my favorite things was the colors. I did like the coloring in this book. Uh,
Absolutely.
I liked Michael's backgrounds.
Hmm.
He knows how to draw backgrounds. He takes his time on it.
I would agree.
Where he struggled, I thought was anatomy, facial features, hands, all that sort of thing. I thought some of the characters were drawn just okay.
Yeah, so there's a couple panels I agree with you. I agree with you, and I want to give examples.
Hmm.
So there's a panel where she's in the bookstore. I guess she works in a bookstore,
Hmm.
and the lady that owns the bookstore and her boyfriend are kind of it's like a quarter-page panel, and boy, it broke. I mean, it broke the story. Like it took me out of the story, George. Like,
The woman is giving her boyfriend like an elbow in the gut,
right,
and
right.
yeah, it just the perspective on that is all wrong. Like the size of her hand compared to the rest of her body. It was an awkward pose, and it was awkwardly drawn.
And then when they go back into the Roman times, like you have these Roman guys thrusting spears, and it was rough, and it kind of took me out of the story too. So
One of the Sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
One of the things that beyond just the art itself I had trouble with was how the panels were sequentially um, laid out. I thought things jumped way too much at times. You know, the scene where the characters come up through the faucet, the sink when the water's running.
Mm-hmm.
At 1 second, the water's running. The next, they're all just standing there. I mean, like that was it. Boom! Like from 1 second to the next, from one panel to the next. This is a comic book. You can show more than that if you want to. Uh, I just thought sequentially the art was a bit lacking.
Yeah, I don't know how much that has to do with layouts either. Honestly, I feel like the layouts of the pages, the page layouts themselves could have been a little bit better, and I think that actually runs into the story a little bit, where we talk about the lettering
Mm-hmm.
and what dialogue goes where. I think that was an issue as well. So
Mm-hmm. There were things I liked when the character Ella and Damon are leaping through the city. When he was showing motion, that was very reminiscent of Gene Colan's Daredevil to me. I could see that motion. Uh, I liked seeing that. So
yeah,
there
it
was
was good
definitely things
use
I
of
liked.
it was good use of using the camera, you know, as
Hmm.
the art they say,
Hmm.
of panning out and showing them bounce around. Like that was really good. I agree. His background, fantastic. I do think this does not change my mind that he can be an outstanding colorist,
Hmm.
like Michael can,
Hmm.
no doubt. So there's a lot of positives. However, like when you're into the story, when you're reading and you're really getting into it, and you have a panel, it takes you out of the story because of the art's a little bit off. It's frustrating.
When you read a comic, there's always going to be that payoff page. There could be two or three, like in Starlight Cats. We talked about those two splash pages and how much we liked them, and we've seen that in other books as well. I saw no real payoff page in this story. There was no like, whoa, look at that to me. That moment
Hmm.
didn't happen when I mean, it was fine, but there was no payoff moment at all as far as the art. Probably the biggest thing I could think of is when Ella was on top of the building. That really famous shot where you see her reflection in the building across the street right before she's getting ready to leap off of it. That would have been the one, and even that's kind of a static pose. It's not really a payoff page to me.
No, it's actually it's an establishing shot, a
Hmm.
spread page establishing shot. So it's not really a payoff page. And we could have another stream where we could talk about how you set a story up and whatever. That's not a review though. So I would agree. Well, what would you give the art, George?
I gave the art a C.
I give the art a C minus. Like it really hurts when I go to read a comic book, and I get taken out of the story. So
Hmm.
like as good as his colors were, and they were fantastic, as good as some of the backgrounds were, like when I have to double take or triple take a panel and it takes me out of the story, it's a killer for me.
Hmm. So our last category would be book quality. Now you didn't actually receive the book yet,
Nope.
so I'll just talk really briefly about it. This is very sharply printed. Uh, I don't know where he got it printed from. I know there's been problems with the smaller book, but the main book itself I thought was beautiful. There is a really nice spot gloss on the cover that kind of shines in the puddle of water that she's falling into. I really like the feel of the pages. If I had minor complaints, I would say I wish the cover stock of the cover was a little bit thicker. It just seems to be maybe like a step up from the interior page, maybe a little bit more than that, but I would have liked it to be a little bit thicker. And the only other nitpicky thing I have as far as the quality is he chose to sign the book on the inside, like the front title page. And I guess because the title page has a dark tone to it and the next page is light, I can see a pressing of his signature in the first pages of the dialogue.
Mm.
So it's not like ink or anything running through, but it did press through, because I was looking at what are these squiggly lines I'm seeing, and it's from his signature. So if any sort of recommendation I have for Michael in the future, if he's going to sign the inside of the book, put something behind when he's signing it. That way it doesn't go through the book. But overall, I like the quality of this book quite a bit. Those are just small little nitpicky things I'm trying to find about it. But overall, very sturdily bound. It feels good in hand, and it's a high quality printing. I gave it an A-.
There you go. Good stuff. What do you give the book overall?
Now, you don't, even when you get the book and review the quality, you don't count the quality of the book in your overall grade, but I do.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, I gave it a B-.
I would give so I'm taking your judgment on the quality. I'm taking that for granted.
Mhm.
I would give the book a C.
Okay.
So,
I don't think we're that far off, to be honest with you.
what's the last question we always ask?
Well, we always ask two questions. Are you glad you backed, and would you back again? So my first question to you, are you glad you backed?
Absolutely, I'm glad I backed. And would I back again? Yes. Look, honestly, when we're in crowdfunding, like we understand, like this is somebody's very first book, right?
Mhm.
So, like, I'm along for the ride. I hope he gets better. But above that, like, I really am drawn to Ella for some reason. I was telling you earlier, George, I think this would be an outstanding novel.
I could
Like,
see that.
this could be an outstanding novel because the character of Ella is being so well developed. It's up to Mike now to really understand how comics work
Mhm.
and make graphic novels kind of from that. But yeah, I'm really interested in Ella, so I would definitely back again. What about you?
I absolutely would back again, and I am glad I backed. I think if I wouldn't have backed, I would have felt like I was missing out on this one. This is a book that many people were eagerly anticipating. Reading it, I think to myself, the best is yet to come. So I'm not going to invest as much time in it without knowing what happens next. But I'll be keeping a close eye on that next book.
Absolutely. I don't know what we got coming up, George.
I can think of Star Circuit. That's the only thing
Graveyard
I can think.
Shift.
And Graveyard Shift, yes.
So we
You
got a
got yours.
couple
I haven't
books.
gotten mine yet.
Yeah, well, you ordered the second printing,
Yes.
so I'm a little bit ahead of you. But yeah,
Mhm.
we have Graveyard Shift and Star Circuit. We'll have a couple reviews coming back, probably the next couple months.
Mhm.
And I think we'll talk to everybody else later. Thanks for watching the review.
Thank you.